Hi, welcome to the Moments That Matter podcast. This is your host, Laura Escamilla, and I am joined by, of course, our producer, my husband.
Hi.
Isaac Escamilla. And our guest today is Ernesto Gonzalez. We've known him a long time, so we call him Ernie. And he works for our Region Education Service Center. We call it Region 1 here in our area. And he is a specialist who works with our area high schools, especially at-risk students in those high schools, preparing them for college. So today we welcome him with us to talk a little bit about the programs that he is working on and provide some guidance for everyone out there if you find your students are in this situation where they just need a little support and a little help. So Ernie, will you tell us a little bit about your work and the programs that you're doing?
Of course, Ernie actually sounds a lot better. When you said Ernesto, I feel like I'm in trouble here. So at Region 1, I'm a STEM specialist with their Gear Up grant. We actually have 3 grants at Region 1 that work with high school students. So our grant has followed students from their 7th grade year to this year, which is their senior year, and then it'll follow them one more year after this. All the students that we work with are seniors. There's about 18 high schools, about 5,200 students.
Mm-hmm.
The grant specifically is written for first-gen, low socioeconomic students, helping them, encouraging them, giving them all the support and tools they need to not only get through high school, but advance past high school and be successful.
Right.
Now, not all students are first-gen, not all students are low socioeconomic, because we just get the cohorts from each high school.
Mm-hmm.
But that's specifically what the grant was written for. But we do work with all the students.
So really majority at risk, only at risk because there is no one ahead of them who can guide them through the process because they're first generation and low socioeconomic. So just working out how to afford going to college or getting to the next level, whatever that is, just that guidance is really what
Correct.
we
I
need to do.
wouldn't necessarily call it at risk. When you say at risk, to me, that has
A
puts out
different,
a negative
yeah.
connotation. So no, they're just first gen. The reason I love doing what I'm doing also is because I was first gen.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, and we all grew up together.
We have a very
Yeah. So
intertwined and shared
yeah, all of us
experience.
shared a lot of the same experiences. And my dad taught me the value of working hard and what
Mhm.
it means to be a hard worker, what it means to be a man. But being a professional, going to college, all he could tell me was, look, if you don't want to do this, what I'm doing, go to school. But
Right.
what that entailed, what that meant, preparing for it, applications, there was none of that.
Right.
So from there, you're a step behind those that do have that opportunity.
Right.
So that's where the grant steps in, the Gear Up grant. And that's where we help the schools, the students, the parents. So, for example, this year we kicked off the year. We already had an event for our teachers. The educators are working with our students,
Mm-hmm.
providing them PD, providing them training, different things to help them prepare and start off the year. We also had a parent event where the parents came in and we worked with them, talked to them about college applications, financial aid, FAFSA. It's a new FAFSA this year as
Mhm.
well for our students. And that's a whole nother,
That's a whole other episode. Yep. Mhm.
we just had an event for our male students.
Right, which
Oh, wow.
is where this stemmed from. Doing this podcast, Isaac was one of the speakers at your T.I.E.S event, which was geared towards male students in your
Correct.
program. And Isaac, you want to tell us a little bit about what that
Absolutely.
was?
First of all, I would like, Ernie, if you can let everybody know for the benefit of the audience, what is T.I.E.S and what is the event that took place?
So T.I.E.S is an event that was started at Region 1 a while back. I believe Lee, which is one of the other directors, and a couple other people started the event. And it's about bringing in young men and bringing in mentors from the community and then bringing them together. So the young men have an opportunity to network, to meet, to see people in the community that are working, that are in those fields. Like I said, we really didn't have those examples growing up as far as what is it to be a professional? What is it to work in a certain field?
Mhm.
That guidance. So the whole idea behind this is bringing them in from the community and then creating that mentorship,
That connection.
that connection with our students, so our students can see what does it mean to be a professional? What does it mean to work in a certain field? So if they are interested in certain fields, they can hear about it and then, hey, you know what, that's something I want to go into, or hey, maybe that's not, or so they can start seeing that. So that was the whole idea behind T.I.E.S, Together in Education for Success, is just making that connection with the young men and the professional males in the community and providing that mentorship guidance.
Well, I was very honored to be asked to attend the event, and I had a really good time. I think that was the catalyst for this episode, really. So when I was out there, and my colleague Alfonso Mendoza, also very similar background to ours, also from
Yeah.
the same hometown that we come from. These young men reminded me so much of myself as I sat there and I watched them interact with each other before I got started. And just to set the scene for you, so I have a little classroom, so to speak, right, with glass doors. And there's about 30 young men in there. And you get 30 guys together, and it can go one of two ways, right? It can be riveting or it can go off the rails pretty quick. Because I was the kid that helped things get off the rails at their age, right?
You?
No.
Yeah, a little bit. So I sat there and I listened to them speak to each other and I got a feel for who they are and whatnot. So I put on lo-fi music in the background when I'm presenting and when I'm setting up. Sometimes I leave it on the entire time because I think it helps set the mood for myself. Maybe it's my ADHD or maybe it is useful to calm things down. But I saw them interact and I spoke with them and they were telling me what their stories are and they're seniors. So during this podcast, we've emphasized and we've told everybody that the junior year is paramount. The junior year is so important. And these kids are seniors. And I applied for college as a senior. I was behind.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think we all were because we didn't know
Didn't
any
know any
better.
better.
I didn't know
Yeah,
any better. I didn't have anybody
exactly.
to tell
Yeah.
me. I think my parents even thought like, "Oh, senior year's fine. You will graduate." And that was a terrible impersonation of a parent. But their senior year was when we applied for all these colleges, and we had our good friend Michael, who got into college. It seemingly to me very early, and it wasn't. It was when
You're supposed to.
you're supposed to, and he got into Texas, and he was great, and he was feeling great, and we were so proud and happy for him. And he's a doctor now, Doctor
In Hosa.
Hinojosa. That's incredible and amazing, and
That's
still Mikey to
Oh,
us.
so it could be just Mikey.
But at the time as a senior, I had no guidance, and I thought he was ahead of the curve. I was like, man, this guy looks so far. He was just right on time, and I was so far behind. So when these guys were all telling me that they were all seniors, and I didn't know this going in, I should have asked, but they were all seniors, and they were talking about the different things they wanted
It
to
was
do.
in the email. Just saying.
I skimmed it. I skimmed the email. But I just wanted to share with them, and I didn't get in depth with them about options that you may have. So just a little refresher background on for those that may not know me, probably a lot of people out there. My background was Edinburgh North High School, and I applied only to UTSA right after that. I was going to live with my girlfriend, now wife's brother, and I got my financial aid package for UTSA, and I was ready to go. And my father and uncle convinced me not to go anywhere and that stay here in the valley and I'll buy you a car. So what I did for an entire semester is absolutely nothing. Nothing. I rented Mortal Kombat every 3 days from the local Showtime video. And I was there with my friends Freddie, Andy, and Shaq. And I did nothing for an entire semester. And what a waste that
not
was.
nothing. You came to my band practices every day after school.
I felt hopeless. I felt a little lost. I felt like I was very much behind.
Yeah.
I felt like our friends, Aaron, Michael, and a bulk of our friends had already had their act together and that I wouldn't be able to catch up. So when I applied to UTPA at the time, I also still felt a little behind and a little lost. I felt like our friends were out there succeeding and doing things that I was fully capable of doing, and not to diminish UTPA in any way, but I felt that their experiences as they'd share them with us were so different than what I was experiencing here. And I felt like I needed to experience some of that. And I didn't think there was a path to that. And there was. So I left UTPA and I went to ACC for a little while and I got my grades up. And I was going to transfer to Texas, but I didn't get into Texas because Texas closed transfer admissions and I didn't have anything special to bring. I wasn't an athlete. Nope. And I was a musician and I didn't want to play music anymore. So I felt a little lost again. Like I'd kind of done this for nothing. I'm stuck at ACC. I'm here in Austin. I'm scraping by and I have no path. So I applied to Southwest Texas, now Texas State, and I got in. And that gave me some guidance and it gave me something to stand on. I felt solid. I felt like that was progressing in my life. And from there, I did great. And then I came back to UTPA at the time still. I got to get that straight in my head.
Yeah.
Finished my undergraduate degree, went on years later to finish my graduate degree through Texas A&M Kingsville. And I have had a couple of great positions as a result of those postgraduate years that have provided me a very well-rounded and a very rewarding experience in education. So there was a path. And
Yeah, and that's exactly, sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
jump
not
in.
at all. And please jump in
Um,
at any time.
but that's exactly what interests me when putting together the T.I.E.S event. Our team, we have a small team, part of our grant, and I'm the only male. So, of course, the T.I.E.S event, which is for males, was given to me to put together for our grant. So, in putting this together, that's one of the things that I had in mind. And one of the focuses I wanted was bringing in that guidance. To me, that was a great idea because we didn't have that guidance as far as, hey, if you want to do this, this is the route you should do. You should start
Mhm.
doing this and this. Or if you want to do that, this is what you should be doing right now. So to me, that was a great idea, bringing in these professionals like yourself, bringing in other people to speak to these students. Plus, at the same time, like you said, you didn't have a straight line.
I
A
did
lot of
not.
us didn't take a
Right.
straight line,
And
straight
Ernie,
route.
why don't you share that? Because I think it's beneficial for yourself. You got into University of Texas straight out of high school, and you went for a year, 2 years,
Yeah, about a
and
year and a
and
half.
you
And
you couldn't continue, and not because you didn't do well, but it was financially probably,
well, it was a little
because
me.
you had Isaac as a friend, and he's not the best.
Yeah, not the
I
best
may have
influence. No,
contributed
no.
to some of that.
But then you joined the military.
You're welcome.
Just trying to
Figure
live,
it out. Do
figure it
some-
out. And decided that Austin was way too expensive. Moved home. I was home for about a year. Realized that I was still not mature enough, still doing the same stuff, but except I was doing it here at home.
Mhm.
And I looked at myself and said, you know what? This is not working. Gotta do something. So what I do, I joined the Marine Corps. I went off, and that was actually probably one of the best decisions I ever made. It gave me time to mature. I got to see the world, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about handling stress, learned different things, leadership, qualities. Then came back, took full advantage of GI Bill, got my bachelor's, got my master's, got into teaching, education. So it wasn't, like we were saying, it wasn't a straight line.
And it isn't for a lot of us, I think, from our area. I know it's probably more prominent now with our kids and the community we live in, but I still think for a majority of kids, it is not a straight path. There's obstacles all the way. And for myself, since we're all sharing, I stayed at UTPA for a year right out of high school. Same thing. My parents didn't want me to leave. And I don't know if I'm considered first generation. At the time I left to college, my older brother was in college, and my parents did not have degrees. But by the time I got my degree, my mom had gotten an online degree. But it was very late in her
Yeah.
life and her career. She didn't leave right after high school and get a degree. But obviously, I commend her for that because, again, I don't think for any of us it was a straight path. For her, it was a career decision. You want to advance, you have to have a degree. And that was what she always instilled in me. Just because you have an obstacle doesn't mean that you can't continue and you can't do it, right? Which is all
Yeah,
of us, right?
exactly.
Like you have a sidetrack.
And that's one of the things that I like about what I'm doing now is that we help students, and the grant helps students not only matriculate to college,
Mhm.
but hopefully finish in the time that they're supposed to finish.
Right.
I mean, everybody has their own path, but
10 years for me.
yeah, I'm right there. But one of the biggest things here in the Valley, for some reason, is we do have a high matriculation rate where they do go to college. They do move on after
Mhm.
high school, but we also have one of the lowest rates of students actually completing college
Graduation.
and graduating from college.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we're trying to help with by
Right.
providing schools with resources, teachers, the parents, the students. Not only are they matriculating to college and going to college,
They're completing.
but hopefully they're completing college and then doing something with the T.I.E.S event. We showed them these different fields, these different professionals, but we also had military there. The classroom isn't always for everybody and
Mhm.
not right away. I know for sure my best probably would have been going to the military first, but do I regret it? No, because that makes us who we are, right? That's part of our story. That's
Absolutely.
part, we learned a lot
Yeah.
about ourselves. As far as maturity wise, I wasn't ready to be where I was. And some of our students are not, and some of them are ahead of the game. They already know what they want to do. They know that, hey, I'm not ready for the classroom, but I want to go to the military. So we even had military there at T.I.E.S. There's people from the Marine Corps, Texas National Guard. We have professionals. So there's different avenues. It's not always the 4-year university. There's other schools. There's trade schools. The trades are needed everywhere.
Definitely.
And they're well-paying jobs as well.
Great
Yeah.
way to make a living.
Yeah, and people often, for some reason, want to overlook them.
They should not.
They should not. They're there to help our students out as well.
Definitely.
Right. And professionally, just a little background, working as a scholarship provider, working for a nonprofit, early on, I've been with Star Scholarship Fund for over 18 years, but early on, we administered Region 1's scholarship for these Gear Up students to go to college through UT RGV or UTPA at the time. But yeah, that rate of students that when we started administering the funds, we only administered the funds. We didn't select the students. They were Gear Up students. But the number of students every year got to be less and less. They were dropping out, and we would call and find out, are they going to continue? You're not enrolled. And said, oh, I'm taking a semester off. And those things, a semester turns into a year, 2 years, and these things just happen. And there was, I wouldn't say it was a majority, but the percentage was too high to be comfortable with that these
Yeah.
kids weren't finished. When they had the support, they had the financial support. This was an adequate scholarship to help them get through college. And I find that too, as we go every year, we select scholarship recipients. We verify the enrollment in fall, typically no issues in spring. We verify enrollment in GPA, and we lose a lot of kids. That's hard to deal with as a provider, as somebody in my situation who not only this is my job, but personally, I feel very passionate about the need to complete this. And I get that college is not for everybody, but there is a path, there is something to do, that there is going to a community college to have a trade, right? There's our community colleges. And we have a partnership with TSDC. They have tons of certifications and a lot of different programs that doesn't need to be a full 4-year degree, but there's a lot of avenues for these kids. And I think that was one of the things that Isaac expressed that he wished he could give. I'm sure your program is telling these kids, but there's other ways.
Right. I wanted to elaborate on some things that I've heard of that I haven't done personally, but I know that some students, they couldn't get into Texas A&M. Let's say that's their dream school. They want to go to Texas A&M. They want to be an Aggie. Well, you can go to, is it
Blinn College.
Blinn College, and there's some work you can do there, and then you can, if you work hard enough, I guess, and if you're lucky enough to get selected, then you can transfer into Texas A&M, and then you can go to that dream school that you ever wanted to.
STC, South Texas College here in the McAllen or the Valley area, they have a program where you can transfer to Baylor if you do well.
Aaron, my godson,
yes,
he ended up going to UTSA for a year and then transferred into UT.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very possible. But that's one of the things that we're doing in the grant is trying to give the knowledge, because lots of times students don't have this knowledge. Is provide the students and the parents with that knowledge that, hey, this is what's available, and hopefully trying to help them, put them in the best position to succeed. Also, coming from the classroom, working at a dual enrollment campus, I thought that was totally great, because I'm still kind of in the air about dual enrollment for different reasons. Whether, for example, for my daughter, I don't know if I want to put that stress on her of having her be a high school student, but taking college classes. So now she has to be a college student and still do all the extracurricular.
You know your student.
Yeah, you got to know the student. I think it's not for all students, but if the student's ready and they're willing to do it, and coming from a dual enrollment campus, I thought it was awesome, because those students were being prepared. And that's one of the things when they would come back, they were like, hey, sir. I was like, hey, how's it going? Or, what did it help? And they're like, hey, we knew what a syllabus was. We knew how to use Blackboard. Lots of times it's not that the students are not succeeding. It's just that they're starting behind everybody else because they don't know what's available to them. Right. So, for example, a lot of campuses have tutoring centers, have writing centers, and students are getting there and they have no idea. So they're struggling. The help's there, but they don't know how to get that help.
Accessibility.
Yeah, the accessibility to it. So that's one of the things that through Gear Up and the grant, taking these students on college campuses, college tours, showing them what's available, having them speak to people and being effective about it, and conscious, doing it with a purpose, that when you take them there, this is what you want to show them, make this available to them. So when they get there, they know what is available. And it's just going to put them in a better position to succeed.
That's fantastic.
Right.
And now your Gear Up program, I know that this is geared toward those students that are part of the program, but do you have any of these resources available on the Gear Up website with some information, or just to point them in the right direction about where to go for some of these programs or things that are available to
So
them?
for the program, a big part of the program is also sustainability.
Okay.
So we're directly responsible for helping the Gear Up students. That's what that's all our funding goes to, helping the students in our cohort.
Yes, indeed.
But a big part of it is sustainability. So when the students leave, one of the big questions is, what was left behind? So we encourage our facilitators on our campuses, they start programs, or we help them start programs, or we help them do things with the intent or the idea that that information or that knowledge is turned around and it stays there and it grows and it
Passed on.
Yeah, it's passed on. Not only does it help the Gear Up students, but it helps everybody there.
Okay.
And for probably the better part of 15 years already for Star Scholarship Fund, I work with Region 1 a lot and the Gear Up program and present to students and parents on scholarships and financial aid. And it is very moving, I guess, to see these parents sitting there and trying to understand and trying to learn, because it's a lot of information to
Oh, yeah.
retain, a lot to learn about financial aid, a lot to learn about scholarships and how to help their kids. So it's very rewarding to see that there's so many parents that are active and want this for their kids, but it is overwhelming. And that is part of the reason we're doing this podcast, because I more than not run into more parents that are overwhelmed by the process. So when you add their low income, and it's hard enough for a middle class family like ourselves to get through the process. And then when you're low income and you really don't know what avenues you have, that's hard. That
Yeah.
they don't realize how many schools out of the 22 universities that we work with that are for undergrads, 8 offer tuition assistance programs where if they make below a certain income level, they can get everything covered. And I don't know that they know this, that this is information that has to be shared for them, because there is a path. And I've talked to a lot of students that say, oh, my parents don't have money, I can't go to college. But there are so many programs. There's so many avenues
Oh, yeah.
to help with this.
That's the thing, is that Gear Up's not reinventing the wheel. Okay?
Right.
We're connecting and sharing the knowledge with the parents and make sure that the parents and the students are connected to that knowledge.
Yes.
So, for example, College Board. College Board has a lot of tools out there that can be used to help guide a student through the college process, applications, FAFSA, everything. And there's a bunch of other resources out there. So all we're doing is showing the parents, hey, these resources are there. We're not creating these resources lots of times.
Right.
We're
Point
just,
them in the right
Yeah, we're
direction.
just pointing them in the right direction and let them know, hey, this is out there, this is out there, this is out there. It'll help guide you. It'll help give you the resources that you need. We'll bring people in to talk to them. And a lot of these students that are part of the Gear Up grant, they have siblings as well. So the parents are already getting that knowledge, and hopefully those parents can pass
share.
that knowledge and use that knowledge as well. So like I said, we're not creating a lot of these resources. They're there. We're just helping them. We're just helping the parents find them.
Find them,
Because
utilize them.
Exactly.
And that's the same thing we're doing here, is just sharing the resources out there, because to search for where even to begin, if you just Google how to go to college, the amount of information that's going to be thrown at you. And sometimes there's websites that want you to pay and they're not legitimate, and you kind of get discouraged on who to really trust and what
there's a lot of
information to
free
take.
help. There's
And
a lot of free help out there.
most of the help is free.
Exactly.
And there are a lot of independent education consultants that get hired, and they do cost a good amount of money, but those are really geared towards families who can afford to do that. And that's not available to majority of the world, I think, or majority of parents and students. I have a passion to do that, and why I really enjoy doing the Region 1 presentations, because I get to share the information that I have for free to these students. And always after presentations, parents come up or students come up and like, what about this? And what about this? And I love that. I love that that it's an avenue to connect to people I would never have spoken to, because I only deal with college students through my daily job. So I love that
Like
that
we've been
avenue.
saying, a lot of it is just the education, educating the parents, educating the students, because that help is out there. The resources are out there, but we didn't know.
We didn't
know that they were out there. They're out there.
And even just this T.I.E.S program, speaking to somebody like Isaac, who is by all accounts successful now, but his journey to get there was not. And a lot of, I'm sure the people that you went to have them go speak, their journey was not a straight line.
We had all kinds of people there. They're seeing that they came from the same place. They grew up the same way, and they're there. They're doing what they're doing, which means that hopefully the students can see that and say, we can do the same thing.
Right.
Because he has the same background as I did. He grew up the same way. And I thought that was pretty interesting that one of the students did. We have a survey that they did at the end. And one of the comments was, it was very good seeing that people are doing what they're doing and they started like us.
Right.
And that makes us think that we can do it too.
Right.
Which I thought was the whole purpose of this. So
And that's fantastic.
That was awesome.
I'll tell you, that happens to adults too. The instructional software specialist, the role that I had prior to the one that I'm in now, I was inspired by it because I saw somebody come. We invited somebody over to do it. And they trained us on XYZ. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I sat there and I realized that And it's not a dig on anybody, but I thought to myself, this looks like a lot of fun. I think I can do this. I think I do this a little better.
Oh yeah.
And so I went to school for it, and I did, and then I got a fantastic opportunity at work to do that. And it was a very incredibly enjoyable experience. I learned a lot about curriculum and instruction in real life, and it
Well,
really helped me.
and to me, that's what was awesome also, but not only seeing what I saw with the students, but seeing what I saw from the presenters. Because the presenters were more than willing, like yourself. Honestly, I was intimidated. I was scared to reach out to a lot of people
Hmm.
and ask them, but it became so easy because as soon as I told them what it was for, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, no problem, no problem." And seeing these presenters come in, spend their time giving back to their community, giving back to these students, and then trying to help these students succeed and do well in whatever field they go
Yeah.
into was awesome to see. How everybody just came back, was willing to give back to their community, just like you were and all the other presenters. That was awesome to
I'm
see
glad
as
it was
well.
But
such a
and
success.
just sharing your story, right, can have such an impact on somebody else. And I think that that's really hard. People don't want to, a lot of times they don't want to share, or they think, or they're embarrassed about their path or embarrassed about their background. But like you said, there's no regrets, even on my case, because it made me who I am. And I did not picture when I was 18 and went to college that I wanted to be director of a nonprofit. Like, I didn't even know what a nonprofit was, right? Just our path.
Right.
My path
Yeah.
took me here, and I'm so glad that it did. But I think we're all like that. I don't think you went to school to be an educator. That's not what your intention was. But, or neither did Isaac. I think Isaac went to be a band director at
I
the
was going to
first
be a
time.
band director. I walked into that band
But
hall at Southwest Texas.
because we had a great band director who influenced
Harry Dornbush,
and
Yeah.
influenced
in
our
peace.
lives.
Great man.
And as anybody listening can probably tell, we've known each other a very, very long time. But I have no problem. I am not embarrassed at all to share my story because it can help somebody, because somebody can get to a roadblock and say, you know what, but it's still possible to get past this roadblock. Yes, maybe I have to take a year off. Yes, maybe I have to work also, or maybe this, but you can still finish. You can still do it. Or the students who graduate and realize that they don't want to do what they got their degree in, that there's still another way.
Through teaching and coaching, I realized that one of the best ways that I found was more effective in reaching students and talking to students and students I had in my classroom, and even students, those students that other teachers will label the troubled students,
Hmm.
I usually had no problems with. And one of the reasons I think that I was able to connect with a lot of students is 'cause I had no problem making fun of myself, cracking jokes, or telling them about, hey, this is what I did. This is what I've been
Hmm.
through. It wasn't a straight line. I messed up here. I messed up there. And admitting, and I think when the students hear that you're genuine and they know that, hey, you messed up too, it happens. I think that allows you to connect with them a little better
Right.
than, and once you make those connections with students, basically you, they'll listen a lot more.
Right.
They're willing to, you know what? They might agree with the message you're giving them, but they're willing to
Give you
lend
a
an ear
chance.
and
Right.
give you a chance because they know you're being genuine. And I'm not doing it to pick on them. I'm not doing it. If I'm correcting them, if I'm telling them something, it's because they know it's because I care.
Right.
Right.
And
And we have the same
Humble.
philosophy, and with our kids. And I think your daughter's younger, way younger than our kids. And when we were talking about parenting, that is the one thing I told you, just be honest, because that, I think, is the most beneficial thing. The best thing we did for our kids was we've always been honest about our path and our mistakes and the things. We never tried to pretend we were perfect, or I never did this or never did that. And it's like, no, I'm telling you this because we did it and it did not go well. Being honest, just being honest with your kids and any youth, because that's the best way to get through, because you're not coming from a place above them, talking down to them. You're coming from a place of, I went through this and I know exactly where you're at and how you feel. And I got past it, so you can get past it, kind of thing. And I think that is the best form of getting through
oh, yeah.
to students.
When I
And
first started teaching, I think one of the best pieces of advice I was given was that just be yourself. And if you're not, students are going to see it.
right.
They'll
Students can
know.
tell when you're not genuine. Students
Mhm.
can tell, they'll know.
Hmm.
So the best thing is just be yourself, be genuine, talk about it. And one of the discussions I've had this with my nieces and my nephew, and they'll say, I'm never going to use math. Because they, as a teacher, they're like, why are we doing this? This is so dumb. And I try to explain to them the whole purpose of high school. Yeah, you're probably not going to use math to that extent. You're not going to have to find the cosine of whatever as an adult
Mhm.
most of the time, unless that's your job for some reason. But you're not going to need this. But what you are going to need are the thinking skills, the learning skills. So, as a teacher, as an educator, is showing students how to think for themselves, how to advocate for themselves, showing them these were the mistakes that have been made, learn from it. And those other skills, they are important. It is important to know how to add, it's important to know how to read. That's extremely important. But I think it's those other skills that's the focus of what students should be getting.
The critical
Yeah, the
thinking of
critical
it.
thinking and
I don't know. Have you ever tried to hang a painting? You need those diameters. And median. Math is very critical in my daily life.
Well, what this critical thinking provides is a
Mhm.
schema to tackle problems that don't exist yet, larger problems that are far beyond anything that they've done before. And I say to people all the time, even in my new role and my old role, every day I do something I've never done before. And the reason I can do things that I've never done before, and the reason I can do hard things, is because I have some kind of schema for it. Like, well, I've done something similar to this before. I'll just take this from here and take that from there, and I'll
Right.
figure it out. I will
Yeah.
figure it out.
And another message, even to parents, which is also the podcast that we're sharing our story and our lives and the people that come on to share their stories, is that even as a parent, you're not going to do everything 100%
Right.
correct all the time either. You're going to make mistakes too. We all make mistakes, and it's okay. But this is how we guide our kids through it. Maybe you didn't know that your kids had to start their junior year trying to prepare for colleges, and you're here in your senior year and you feel like you've failed them, or you didn't know, but there is always a path forward.
So let's continue that talk of the path, these paths. So I looking down on your show notes here, and
Sure.
I see these resources: Texas A&M, Texas Tech. Can we put these on our website
For sure.
and give parents a place to go from the what is
Right.
the
So
website again, just for the benefit?
momentsmatterpod.com.
Say that again.
momentsmatterpod.com.
Okay, so on the notes for this show, we will put in there this resources, essentially different paths and different programs that are available to students. So
Right. So what I did is I printed out some research I had done with our partner universities for tuition assistance programs and the schools, the guidelines for their income and what they have to meet to get free tuition, essentially, at that school, and free resources. And that's important for our organization because we were trying to figure out our scholarship and where that falls in line with that. And that's information that I stay up to date on all the time, the financial aid side. So I know that there are resources out there for these kids. And there's, like you said, a lot of people willing to help and give it, and,
Oh, yeah.
and just guiding them. But yes, definitely there's amazing universities in our state, 5 miles down the road, that have resources to help these kids get through school and get started.
And that's extremely important because lots of times, like we've been saying throughout this whole show or podcast, is that the big obstacle lots of times is just knowing that they exist. The STARS network, which is a combination of universities, they're, I guess, highly selective universities. It was MIT, University of Chicago, Yale, Cal Poly. There's quite a few different universities.
okay,
They've gotten together. They're making a focus on reaching students in rural areas. So we brought them down to speak to our students. So they spoke in Bronzeville. We had one day over there, one day at Region 1, and then they went to Laredo and spoke over there. So pretty much throughout the valley, we brought them down. And that's one of the things they were saying. There's a lot of help. There's a lot of resources out there, and our parents don't know. Our students don't know.
Right.
So it's
Right.
just getting our parents, getting our students to those resources and letting them know that they exist to help, that they're there to help our students and help the students pay financially. The financial burden put on a lot of people through school is huge, and that's what stops a lot of students lots of times or from continuing. So we can help with that. That's great. And I think that's a big thing, is just directing them in the right direction for those.
Thank you. That's a interesting cohort, and that's
Right.
an interesting partnership that they have there. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I was
also
just listening.
understanding that once they're on campus and they do get in and they get there, like you were mentioning, there's a lot of resources there because the school, it benefits nobody for them to fail. The
Yeah,
school
no.
wants them to succeed. That's why they're there. So they offer tutoring and a lot of different resources for them to succeed when they're there. And even the campus tours in which you're talking about, giving them that information is so important too, because every school has resources.
Yeah.
I don't think I can't even think of one school that doesn't offer a resource for that
Yeah,
because it benefits nobody to
exactly.
have them fail.
So this reminds me very much of the podcast that we did with the Division I athlete parents
Hmm.
with Audrey and with Rochelle. So one of the comments that Audrey made was that if she had known that JUCO was going to be a route where her son would find success, they would have explored it a little more. And that reminds me of this. This is different paths. Don't be afraid of your community college. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to explore Blinn or STC or any other community college, ACC in Austin, that probably has some partnership or a path to that dream school that you want to go to, right? To that place.
And I think that's where I've been lucky in doing. I'm in the middle of my second year there at Region 1. And I think that's where I got lucky in this position and being able to do what I do. Because through the Gear Up grant, we've been able to help a lot of students, and not only the students, the parents. 'Cause lots of times it's the parents, especially for some reason, and part of, I guess, our culture. A lot of our parents don't want to let the students go because they
Hmm.
don't know what's out there. And so,
Fear of the unknown.
yeah. And for example, last year we took a group of students and parents. We took about, I want to say 20 students, and they all brought a guardian or somebody with them. We took them on a Midwest college tour during spring break. So we went to Ohio State, University of Wisconsin, Michigan, Michigan State, Notre Dame, and Northwestern University of Chicago. So we took the students with the parent. And on that trip, there was a couple parents who at first are like, oh, this is too far. But then once they spoke with some of the campus representatives, saw the campus itself, saw what each campus offered. So a lot of these campuses offer organizations to help the students feel more at home. They have different organizations, they have different clubs, they have
Hmm.
access to different things
Acclamation.
to help the student acclimate to the campus, to the environment, and to make sure to help the students succeed. Like you said, nobody wants anybody to fail. They bring you on their campus. They want you to succeed because you're going to make them look good as well.
Hmm. Your success is their success.
Exactly. Then once the parents started seeing that, you know what, it wouldn't be too bad if you came here. It's really far. They were still kind of like, it's a
Mhm.
little far, but they were opening up their mind a little more to letting their child leave and attend a campus outside the valley, outside UTRGV or STC.
Or Texas in general, which is
Yeah.
enormous.
And some of them were still, okay, maybe not outside of Texas, but if you want to go to A&M or you want to go to
Mhm.
Tech or something, just away from the valley, seeing that, okay, these universities.
It's a bit of a compromise than
Yeah,
leaving the state.
exactly. But just allowing the parents to see that and that knowledge, I think that's one of the big things that we're doing is we're helping the parents know what's out there, connecting them to what's out there, bringing that knowledge to them.
And that's definitely amazing work, especially that you're doing it at no cost to them. That's the hardest part because they would never on their own be able to provide those resources to their kids, and wouldn't even know where to start, how to make those appointments and how to
Yeah.
get that. Just to get a campus tour scheduled is a challenge.
Yeah. And that's the whole idea about the grant, working with the grant is just working with those students. And a lot of that is, like we were saying earlier, with T.I.E.S, is showing those students what's out there and taking them out of their comfort zone and showing them that these are possibilities. Like you said, seeing stuff, I can do that. You know,
Fantastic
he's-
detail.
he's-
And I appreciate that. And it is just so useful and very helpful for these students. But the fact that you gave them all ties
Oh.
was really, really, really great. And I apologize for not actually wearing a tie. It was very hot that day.
Oh, no.
With my suit.
It was at an athletic center. Since the place is brand new, they were an awesome partner. They were great.
Yeah, it looked good. It felt good. And thank you to the facility for providing
yeah.
that for those.
Yeah,
students.
that's where. Yeah, the facility was great.
Clearly, we were very impressed by the facility.
Yeah.
I felt the same way
Yeah.
about it.
They helped us. Like I said, they're brand new. But the tie, I knew it was gonna be hot. I knew it was gonna be humid. Even though we're September, we're in the valley, right?
Yeah, no big deal.
So, but no, we did give the kids a tie, and the tie is a representation of the professional male. Anytime growing up, or anytime you think of a professional, you know, the person's wearing a suit and tie.
Mhm.
So it kind of becomes symbolic. Now, do all fields require a tie? Of course not. Of course, not all professionals
But
need
there
a
will
tie.
be an occasion for it.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely,
There will be an occasion for it. So that was the whole symbolic nature behind it. We still had the little tie ceremony. A lot of students actually, surprisingly, I thought we were going to do it, show them how to tie it. Okay, take a picture, put it away.
Okay.
Actually, a lot of students kept it on for the rest of the day, which I thought was pretty cool.
Most of the kids in the sessions that I did had them on.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And I thought they did that on their own. I said, man, you guys are great. I didn't even wear my own tie, and you guys brought your own ties. They look great. And they said, no, they give them to us, sir. I said, oh, that's fantastic, man.
Yeah, we gave them a bag with a notepad so they could take notes, a
Yeah.
pen, a water bottle, 'cause they were going to need a water bottle throughout the day. So, because they had different water stations
Hmm.
so they can stay hydrated.
Tend to their needs.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then we also threw a tie in all their bags.
Very cool.
So,
Very cool.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming and speaking to us about the programs that you're working with and just a way to guide parents and students. It's
Yeah.
never too late, and there's always a way, there's always a path forward if they want it. What we try to teach our kids, all of us, is if you're willing to work for it, you can get anywhere, right? And
exactly. And thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed it. Anytime, just talking to friends is always fun.
It always is. We should do another one later.
yeah, about other things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.